Now, another person wrote, no, it's the same person. When we learn to be African first, then we will start solving the problem of all Africans. We'll be responsible for the whole of Africa. So those are the comments that some of our viewers have left. Is there anything you want to say about that? Then I have some other questions to ask you.
All right. So I thank our viewers. There's a question about approach. If Nkrumah's approach would have still worked. The question is, what was Nkrumah's approach? Nkrumah's approach was basic. Just Africa must unite. Now, how is Africa going to be united? Africa was going to be united by, first of all, realizing that we all, as African countries, have certain resources. So when you read Nkrumah's Africa Must Unite book, maybe I should recommend it to people that people should look out. Then you find Nkrumah's real approach to Africa Must Unite vision. Now, Nkrumah realized the fact that, and he was very knowledgeable of what each African country really has in terms of natural resources, in terms of capacity, right? So there are some African countries in the North Africa, the East Africa, they have certain resources, whether it's manganese, whether it is iron ore, whether it is oil, whether it is gold. And interestingly, Obehi, you will find out that if you should do a survey of the various mineral resources or natural resources in the African country, they are related. You could find oil in Ghana, you could find oil in Nigeria, you could find oil in Angola, right? You could find manganese in Ghana. You could go to another country, you could find some manganese there. You could go to Congo, you could find diamonds there. You could go to another African country, you could find diamonds there. And Nkrumah was saying that, look, let us form a group where all African leaders of these various African states would now see how best we can team up our natural resources for the progress of Africa. Now, the first issue people thought was going to be a challenge was language. But the point is, Obehi, even in a small company, right, you could work with people who don't speak English. But at the end of the day, we end up communicating because there are several ways of communicating now. And even now, it would have been quite easier, let me say, in terms of solving the language problem for Nkrumah, because there are interpreters of language. There are so many softwares that can interpret language, and we can also create the hub of trying to learn the language, and we could have still united in that front, so that Nigeria would realize that, look, Ghana needs this, right? So if Ghana needs this for construction of its roads, I can supply Ghana with this raw material. But Ghana also has this product that Nigeria, we need to construct our housing. So if there's a housing deficit, but the raw material that we want from Nigeria, we want from Ghana, we can have it by having a bilateral agreement with Ghana. And because we are African countries, we subsidize the price that we should pay for it, because we are exchanging our raw materials. So whilst Nigeria is getting a raw material from Ghana to build its housing, Ghana is getting a raw material from Nigeria to build its roads. Whilst Angola is getting a raw material from Zimbabwe, right, to construct its dams. Zimbabwe is getting a raw material from Angola to also construct its schools. So there's a lot of activity in there that we could have united on. There are lots of things that Nkrumah felt that if Africans had envisioned and believed in this Africa Unite dream, right, having known the kind of resources each African state has, right, then we now decide to ask ourselves, how are we going to team up these resources for the betterment of Africa? And I bet you, if not for greed, I don't see how this should be difficult.
Okay, now I want to agree with you 100%. If it is possible, more than 100% away. All right. Now, you see, I don't think it's really too difficult to be done, to be really honest. Apart from the fact that every other thing in life is difficult, no? There is no extra difficulty in forging ahead as a united Africa. Why do I say that? Because like you even said, no? In business, we do not all speak the same languages. Even today, there are businesses going on. Okay, now that is one thing we didn't make mention of, which if we want, we can also talk about, though, that the European power has already had Africa under control at the time. They were in charge. So having these young men now coming up to say they want to be free, of course, you're not going to have it at the platter of gold. Nobody's going to give you anything for free. Marcus Garvey has organized Africa to return home. A piece of land was even given Liberia. Some people have to come from US or the other way around to come and dabalu this, to come and make sure that it didn't work. Many other efforts have been going on like this on the ground to make sure that the effort of the African United will not work. We know it is happening. It has been happening and it continues to happen. But I think what we really need to appreciate is that, like you have said, if we really have put in the effort, if we really have continued with the approach of Kwame Nkrumah, it is going to be difficult, but it would have been successful because it's the only thing that can really save us, where we begin to look at how we can rely on our independence, on our effort, on our resources, because we do have a lot of resources that is able to take care of our needs. Look at, for example, just to give you a very boring example that still pays a lot of Nigeria today, you know, in the administration of IBB, General Ibrahim Babangida, when they wanted to go borrow money from IMF, which is what many African leaders continue to do, they borrow their money and they deflate their currency, they deflate their production. One of the conditions that the IMF gave Nigeria was that Nigerian economy was going to be opened up. Now, look at Nigerian economy that doesn't even have anything to offer. By opening up the economy, what does it mean? It means that we should open up for importation. If you open up for importation, you have nothing to exchange in terms of, now you just bring in and bring in. What do you have to give out? You only have oil, only crude oil. How can an economy survive on crude oil? Now, if that was a responsible government, you will say, okay, no, my people do not have something that we produce. Let us, first of all, lock it the way it is. Let us produce. We can export and then import. That is the only way economy can survive. Because there is no economy in the world. There is no any economy functioning in this world that rely only on the exportation of one crude or of one resources. The economy only functions by production because the people are then put to work. And this only happens when the people are free, when the leaders are intelligent, when they know what they are doing, when they are not living by just a crook and hook, when they have a vision, they know what they want, they care for the people. This is why we need people like Kwame Nkrumah and their ideology, people like Thomas Sankara, people who understand what it means to lead the people. Not to take order from what the kind of contract that we prepare in Rome or in Washington or to say that we are international. What does it mean international? What about the local people? Who cares about them?